Hi everyone, so today we'll be looking at quadratic graphs, CSEC paper 1 questions, past paper questions. Now quadratic graphs comes under the main topic of relations, functions and graphs, right? So let's look at the questions that we have here with these graphs. So here we have a diagram and it says the diagram above shows a graph. If A, B, A, B, and C are constants, the equation of the graph could be. So what you need to know is that this curve here is called a parabola, right? So it's called a parabola. This is how a parabola looks, right? It looks like this. Sometimes we could have, this is a minimum quadratic curve or parabola, right? And sometimes we have a maximum one, which goes the opposite way, which you'll see just now. So the general equation for a quadratic graph or curve is the general equation, which is something you should remember, is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Right? And that is actually option C, answer C, right? So the answer is C. So what you need to recognize is, okay, this curve, you just need to remember how this curve looks. This is a quadratic curve, this is a parabola. And the general equation is the x squared plus bx plus c, right? So that's all you need to remember for this one. Now here, I have two questions side by side because I just want to show you the variation of how they can bring these questions. So the first question we learned what is the general equation of a quadratic curve, right? Ax squared plus bx plus c. Now here, let's get these questions. The diagram above shows a graph of y equals x open brackets x minus 2 close brackets what the minimum point is. Now what I should have mentioned is that a quadratic curve always has x squared in it, right? What's the x squared? Alright, it's a quadratic curve. So like here, if I had to expand this bracket, I would have gotten x by x, which is x squared, minus x by 2, which is 2x, right? So it's a quadratic curve. And you can see it there, right? Right? You just have this piece here. It didn't go on to the other side in this particular one. Now, they want to know what the minimum point is. So minimum point is the lowest point in the curve, which would be right here, right? That's my minimum point. Now, remember when you're writing a point, coordinates, everything have the coordinates, right? X and Y values. So, my minimum point here, the X value is, come up, that's 1, and the Y value is -1. So, it'll be 1, -1. My answer is D. Very simple. Minimum point, the lowest point, which is right at the bottom here. So, the minimum point is X value 1, Y value -1. Now, coming to this question here, we have a quadratic curve again. We have we want to know the maximum point of this quadratic curve, y equals 4x minus x squared. Now, something to note. When it's a minimum quadratic curve, the x squared is always positive, meaning that if I had to expand this one here, right? Remember I said it was x squared minus 2x, right? You see the number before the x squared, which is a 1, right? We don't see the 1, but it's there. It's positive. That's always a minimum curve, right? Looking at the question here, we have y equals 4x minus x squared. So the number before the x squared is actually -1. So that's how we get a maximum curve. Maximum whenever the number before the x squared is negative. So for the maximum point, the top piece here, right? The maximum point of the curve. So let's just draw that in a little bit there, a little dot. Right here, right? Alright. So my x value is, if you come down, this is the point here, it come down is 2. And if you go across, the x value is 2, and you come across, the y value is 4. So again, x value is 2, y value is 4. Remember, for points, it's always x, comma, y, right? So 2, 4, which is C. So just to show you a maximum curve, it looks like a mountain, right? You're coming down from the lowest point and you're reaching high up and you're coming back down like a mountain, right? And the minimum curve, right? The lowest point is at the bottom, right? That turning point there is at the bottom, right? The turning point for the maximum is at high up at the top, that top part there, right? So just to keep that in mind. Now for these questions, I actually have two questions side by side, but I just wanted to show you all that if looking at the question before as well, you see they brought the same graph again, but then they just changed how they ask the question, right? And then here again, the next question, next past paper, same graph they brought, but they asked two different questions on the same, well, one different question, sorry, because the same thing repeated here, but one different question here, right? So yeah, they could bring the same graph and just ask different questions, right? So it's good to know the different types of questions that they would ask. So as looking at the question on the left here, we have our maximum curve, right? Remember we just said maximum curve. So we want to know the values of x for which y equals 4x minus x squared intersects with y equals 0. First of all, we need to know where y equals 0 is. So what you must remember is y equals 0 anywhere on the x-axis. So this here is the x-axis, right? Anywhere on the x-axis, y is 0. So for example, like at this point here, right, where the 2 is, the coordinates of that point right there where the 2 is 2, 0, because y is 0. Let's look at the point with 4. The coordinates of that point is 4, 0, because y is 0, right? So any point on the x-axis is where y is equal to 0, right? So you want to know where the values for x for which the graph intersects with y equals 0. So basically 2 points are right here. Ready for? You see where it cuts the x-axis? And here again where it cuts the x-axis. So the two values for x will be 0 and 4. And that is E. Now coming on the left, right hand side, sorry. The same question they ask here, right? The values for x for which y equals 4x minus x squared intersects with y equals 0. Again, just remember the x-axis. Anywhere on the x-axis, y is equal to 0. And the opposite, anywhere on the y-axis, x is 0, right? So just remember that. Well, we already did the first part here, which was E, right? 0 and 4. Now, looking at this last piece here, the coordinates of the turning point of y equals 4x minus x squared. Now, the question, with the first question we looked at where they had this graph, right? What did they ask for? They asked for the maximum point, right? And we agreed that the maximum point was up here, right? At the top of the mountain, on top of the graph, right? Now they're asking, it's the same question they're asking here. The coordinates of the turning point. The turning point is right. You see the graph and it turns and it comes back down here. That's the turning point. The turning point is actually the maximum, that maximum point. Right? So, and that is, remember the x value is 2 and the y value is 4. So, x, y, 2, 4, right? So just remember that. So look back, pause the video, look back and see how, that last question from before, the first one with the maximum curve, how you see how they keep on asking the same thing, they ask in different ways. So just something to note, right?